That's cool. Using a tree as a post.
Yo, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
I think I just landed in the coolest place I've ever been to.
Yes, correct. You
So
are.
it was pretty good. Have you ever tried a kava before?
I haven't.
You want some?
Sure. Definitely feeling like my mouth. Like
Yeah.
Background of a picture painted by you.
Ladies and gentlemen,
tonight is Natural Building Night. Natural Building is kind of where the Village Building Convergence began. With the first Village Building Convergence project, which is in the backyard. It's a hybrid building. I don't know of another quite like it. It's got 2 shells of cob with compressed straw, chambers of compressed straw between the 2 shells. And the 2 shells have bridges of cob that connect them up, and then up at the top they're connected where the roof is then connected to the walls. That's the sanctuary.
That's cool.
So it's called the Solar Sanctuary. And our pond has been punctured by some underground creature. So we don't have a pond going right now, but that's all back there, as well as the chicken palace and the fairy house, and there's an outdoor kitchen. And I think our housemate Sam has her ADU open, so you can go in there and see. But as you walk around, this is a permaculture kind of reality here that we've been loving up for about 28 years, particularly in the last 15. There's 13 or 14 varieties of fruit trees on the site. You can see a lot of them are real happy, including the peach tree out front has big plans for the summertime. And there's food forests all around us. We're snuggled into medicinals and beneficials for pollinators and birds and mammals. And the house itself is retrofit with straw clay, so the walls are very thick. We've added straw clay on the inside of the house and on the outside of the house, and then both sides are plastered with earthen plaster. And when you're looking at interior walls, you're probably looking at earth paint or Elise. In fact, we have some people here who have helped. June, our friend here, helped with our remarkable bathroom. Years ago, we got a call from the beloved Kiko Denzer, who's one of the first generation natural builders, and he said, "You must add earthen plaster to your bathroom." And we're like, "What are you talking about? That's madness." He said, "No, believe me, you'll never need to clean the walls again." We haven't had to clean the walls for 12 years. So yeah, earthen materials breathe, and stuff that you paint it to make it easy to wipe off. That stuff doesn't really let moisture pass. It doesn't breathe, and so you always have to clean it, and it grows mold. But you'll notice even in the ceiling of our shower, there's earthen plaster. So when we have moisture happening in there, the walls just go, "Huh?" And then as soon as the moisture stops, they go, "Huh." And it just sits there breathing with nothing ever getting a chance to grow on it. It's just remarkable. So the upstairs is all natural stuff, surfaces. But yeah, we've got this marvelous straw clay stuff happening in the walls, and earthen finishes and all recycled materials. So just kind of feast your eyes. There's all this creativity and love and intention, and we've been using the house as a place for us to be able to learn together and share what we're learning, teach what we're learning, so that we have a demonstration for other people to be able to come and visit. So that's where we are now. We have a special guest speaker, Lindsay Howells. She and I are going to talk about, I'm going to sort of set it up for her, and then she's going to talk about her, probably the city's first hempcrete sauna. up at Cully Green, so she's going to tell us that story. But I'm going to start off giving an overview of natural building, and I'll show a lot of the things that have happened in Portland. You might not have strung them all together yet, but they're all part of a movement, a natural building movement in Portland. I should say that we did this remarkably smart thing in 2001 where we invited the national leadership of natural building to Portland to do all of these projects at once. And all these people came forward to learn, and they became the teachers that are now in our region. So the Village Building Convergence has been a context for lots and lots of natural building, where we've really been working hard to make it a household word in Portland. And so you've seen many of these cob benches and installations like the Rebuilding Center. So with that, here we go. So natural building is fundamentally about working with the force of nature. People tend to think it's clay, sand, and straw. Well, it's more than that. You're thinking about gravity. You're thinking about sunlight and the wind. And probably, if you have a living roof, you're thinking about more than that. I can't tell you how many natural buildings I've been like driving along in a car with, and they're like, "Stop! What?" They're like, "There's orange clay or yellow." They're carrying buckets with them. I didn't even know it. They run out and they scoop it all into their buckets for their next interior plastering project. But these are the constituents of natural building. It's not just straw. It can be any kind of grass fiber. It can be your clippings from your yard. Of course, wood. And water. Water dries out and you don't see it anymore, but it's essential to the process. Personally, I like to catch several barrels of rainwater over the winter before I build something, if I can, because then I just feel more wonderful about what I'm creating. And of course, where would we be without natural builders? Everybody's really a natural builder. Just if you haven't discovered it yet, hopefully you will. But I like to think of us as being like snails creating our own shells. And that when developers create gigantic boxes for us, the fundamental problem isn't that they did it wrong, it's that we didn't do it for ourselves. And so, but it isn't just about the stuff, it isn't just about the house. We're fundamentally villagers who have been colonized, which is why we have to come back to natural building to rediscover it. So we're talking about what is ancestral to us. Earth building is ancestral probably to everyone. This is an excellent example just being finished in Wales.
Well, it looks like a whale fin.
This is a yurt. Look at this. Who needs sand and straw anyway? Some people aren't just building stuff, they're building a cosmological expression that is referencing their essential mythological construction, that everything begins and ends in a circle, and that circle is actually coming from a great mother. Like, that's how rich this can be, not just about the materiality, but what is the essential story that you're tapping into that goes as back as we can in time and as far forward as we can imagine. Megalithic, the 7,000 megalithic castles of Sardinia. So great that even the Romans couldn't knock them all down, so they're just like, shh, don't talk about Sardinia. We don't want anyone to know about anything other than Greco-Roman, fascism.
Oh, nice.
In the desert Southwest, sacred architecture, residential, ceremonial, sacred, all at once. Chaco Canyon. And of course, every natural builder knows about this building, the Great Mosque, which they kind of maintain in a great ceremony and kind of like a barn raising every year. I think it's every year.
Where is that?
I think it's Senegal.
Mali.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mali.
Cool.
Southern Iraq. all these floating little, they're floating rafts, they're islands. And this is what they look like inside, made of reeds. So many different forms. In fact, sometimes entire towns, this is called the New York of natural buildings. Some of these buildings are 13 stories high. They're made of adobe block. This is a termite mound. This is one of my favorite images of exactly what we're talking about. The idea that a being is integral with its place, and it alchemizes its environment into something so specific that only they could have made it, and it works perfectly for them. The termites don't just build this, they actually modulate the temperature and the airflow every day in the way that they lick the columns. They've actually built tubes that facilitate airflow through the thing because they're regulating temperature and moisture to grow food for their queen and for the rest of the colony. So, you know, when you look across our society and you're like wondering why is everything so dystopic, why do we wake up to the same problems every day? Well, fundamentally, I notice that we're living so differently than we used to, and it doesn't seem as if we've made these logical choices to come to a place of disassociation, isolation, feeling disempowered. Like, who chose the path to come to this place? I know for sure that we all do better when we're working together multi-generationally, which seems to be such a rare experience, when we actually use our hands and use our bodies to create the thing. Like, Americans move every 4 to 7 years, and it's no wonder because, like, we don't really fundamentally identify with the environments where we find ourselves. But when we have something to say about where we live, and maybe we put our body into it, we move so much less often. Like in this neighborhood, because of the painted intersection and all the things that people have done, like, almost no one ever moves anymore for 28 years. So something about place. Place isn't just a location, it's a participation. And it's a continuity. So natural building's a global movement. The whole cob method of mixing cob, like, that actually came from Oregon back to Africa. Which is fascinating to see.
Oh, we get to smush our feet.
Wattle and daub
And we
using
get to smush the clay with
probably
our
sticks or bamboo.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot of sharing of ideas and inspiration, whether it's through some sort of mystical osmosis or great conferences of sharing stories. Here's Americans building a little straw clay building. It's not quite legal to build it for a house, so we'll start with an outhouse and then get everyone excited and talking about it towards legalization, which it is now. I mean, it's just legal everywhere now. Even cob itself is legal now. In Portland, rocket stoves have been legal for years and years. Of course, straw bale's been legal for a long time. Here's a demonstration of a straw bale they built in 2 days in British Columbia. So there's also what natural building is not. Natural building is not thoughtlessly mowing down our environment, capitalizing our reality, and forgetting, you know, that there are all of these species in the tree of life that are being annihilated along with the trees that are being cut down for sale. You know, and it's not thoughtless, patriarchal giant wieners sticking into the sky with super high embodied energy, and just thoughtlessness stacked upon thoughtlessness up to the top of the building where you only find mechanical equipment. Like, thoughtful cultures build high for a view, or perhaps for a sacred temple on the top. They're like, they go up there for a reason, but not around here. So, to me, this is natural building. To decolonize ourselves. Like, to me, that's the point of natural building, ultimately, is what it does for ourselves. Like, whoa, here we are in this sort of chessboard, cut up into squares. This is back in the 60s, where a couple of chess pieces from each side decide to trade sides, and they're talking, they're agitating, basically. And they're like, you guys, you hear yourself talking about, you know, getting out of the box, thinking outside the box. You fools, don't you realize we're in boxes? And the pawns are like, what are you talking about? This is our job. We're just here to do what we're told. Fortunately, they get into small groups with facilitators. And they're all hugging and crying and talking about their abusive childhoods. I'm like, I was so isolated, I had no idea everyone around me is going through the same thing. We even have isolation in common. And so they go to the back row to confront their oppressors, who are like, totally, it's not us. We never did it. We never took more than our share. What are you talking about? And the pawns are like, the time has come. But really, it's been looking like this for the last few decades, where people are like, I have a lot to share. I have a lot of ideas. And people are like, I want to totally help. And so how interesting, they get out of their box and they're so excited they forget to stand in their little boxes, and they start to form a circle because they all want to see each other's face. And all these other chessboards are hearing what's going on. Did you hear what's going on that other chessboard over there? And the kings and queens are like, oh no, they're figuring out the game. And the pawns are like, the time has come. At last. And then they just fucking rock out. They're like, there's nowhere in the world that is mundane. The truth is everything's miraculous. Our neighborhood is, a village now. And
Does anyone have a chessboard here? I want one.
They have a little harvest festival with 3 Asian pears and a squash, a couple of hot tubs here, and they planted these perennial permaculture gardens. And that's really all we're talking about. Like, we want to really inhabit our lives.
Are they?
And restore the barn raising, the place, the stewardship culture, the ritual of coming together to uplift our common lives, and to become more healthful and strong, and to at last, like Americans are all walking around feeling like they're separate, to at last discover, like, oh my God, I'm part of a greater whole, holes and holes and holes that I'm a part of, So natural building is a means to that. People are like, oh, cool bench. The bench is the means to bring people together to focus and create together. So this becomes a commons, and they generate the metaphor together. They make with their hands together. And in the process, we revolutionize the bureaucracy. Like, this is the first cob thing in a park in probably all of North America, a giant dragon bench at Da Vinci Middle School. And this is, that's where you went to school. This is one of the first kiosks in the city.
Cool.
This is somebody giving up part of their front yard to create a plaza, and this little cob oven, interestingly called Kenny, because it looks like that South Park character. All these little natural buildings sprinkled all over the city. They're like, pre-legal. People live in them. They're less than 200 square feet. This is the Moon Cottage. This is at Fosterville. This is over near Peoples, and this is in our backyard. This is VBC 1 right here.
Yeah. Don't deny it, bruh.
There's so much to say about this. There's just so much. At Dignity Village, we built 6 of these in 10 days. 6 straw clay houses in 10 days. So it wasn't just about like, oh no, poor people who need housing. It was like, bring people together to be villagers and create something tremendous that changes the narrative. So suddenly they're leading by creating the first straw clay buildings in the entire city. And even this was the first straw bale right here. That's the village. This is the place in the city, like, people with criminal records of all manner, and they have the lowest crime rate in the entire city. And I know one reason is because they live and work together, so they have 100% relationships with each other. As place-based community, that's a big issue. Like, most of us live with partial relationships, fragmentary relationships, because we see these people over there, we see these people over here, and they barely ever mix. Anyway, sociologists write about that kind of stuff that's typical of most people's lives. Here's an outdoor classroom made with straw clay and cob benches. Sukita led these ones.
Amazing.
This is on Division Street and 14th, and this building is another kind of permaculture paradise with earthen interventions inside. This is a Pickathon festival.
We're here!
Like,
We're here!
one thing that's really super cool about natural builders, unlike typical architecture is like all drawn out, everything's measured, all costed out, then you have professionals build it. With natural building, oftentimes when the natural builder arrives on the site, everything's a new conversation, because they're bringing in the possibility for spontaneity and some new inventive ideas. And that's what we do out at the Pickathon Festival. Like, it's a place where when you go there and you see these joyous structures, it's really powerful to realize everything was done improvisationally, and nobody who was feeling bad that day or like too serious, like could work. They had to step back until they could enjoy themselves again. Earth and building also comes with passive solar consciousness, passive cooling, principles of thermal mass, working with the forces of nature and the earth. Some of them are more conventional looking, like this one up in Ridgefield, Washington. But it's real palatable to the mainstream. It's super installative, absolutely beautiful inside, a family house. So getting to the first permitted natural buildings at larger scale in the region took a lot of activism of smaller scale stuff that was under the radar, but it was what everybody wanted to talk about at parties all over the region. Then it starts to happen that it becomes infill on a front porch. This is actually a block away from here, and this is a bathroom created for the postman to be able to use, because it's like a national emergency. Postal people don't have anywhere to go to the bathroom all day. So this is attached to a historic structure here, but it's the first legal straw bale in the history of the city, looking like that inside. And this is the first prescriptive code straw bale that doesn't require engineering if you just work within the constraints of how the code is prescribed, like a certain amount of wall mass relative to windows, certain way of installing the plaster. This is actually up above Johnson Creek, about 2 miles from here. It's a giant straw bale building that's entirely heated, cooled, and lit using only light from the sun down in San Luis Obispo. This is a famous little cottage up in northeast Portland. They're kind of all over the place. This is the rebuilding center, of course. The highest content of natural and recycled material of any commercial building in the United States.
Dad, isn't that the place you designed?
Well, yeah.
That's my dad.
This is a little known piece of this. When they started to build this wall, they got little kids to do the bottom part, and then bigger kids, and then bigger and bigger kids.
That's awesome.
And that was led by Lydia Dolman and a spectacular all-woman cast of builders until it looked like this.
Yep.
Check this out.
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah, there. Yeah, it's one of the destinations of the scavenger hunt. There's also Adobe. This is basically just a tour of the wonderful things, not just of the things that are built in Portland, but the kinds of natural buildings that there are. This is an earth bag building
Oh, that's
that then is finished to look like this. This is an earth ship, of course, and I wouldn't exactly call this a natural building because it uses a lot of concrete, but a lot of features that people love, like bottle walls, passive solar design, passive cooling, and then all integrated systems for gray water and black water. This is a rammed earth building. You can see what it's like when you're laying earth in and compressing it and packing it and vibrating. This is what the wall ends up looking like when you're done. This is at Street Roots, where they wanted natural materials of earth paint and also round wood to create the environment internally. This is at Pacific University with this huge cob oven, cob benches, cob entry, and then all these rooftops are water catchment systems. So when we're doing natural building, we're growing people. Like Jane gets started here, living here in this house, working on projects of this nature, and eventually becomes a leader in her own right and a builder in her own right. But gathering all of these things, all of these lessons and skills, basically she started to see the neighborhood as a library and would talk to people and ask them what skills they had to share, and then she would exchange skills with them. More natural buildings. This one used to be on Hawthorne at the hostel. There's these spectacular kind of different saunas all over the city. This one's on Yam Hill and 38th. Another pizza oven, and this is on PSU's campus, the Dialogue Dome. This is on between 21st and 22nd and Madison, called the Lighthouse. Glows at night.
I remember that picture.
The little girl who was the inspiration of this, like the man who lived back here just read an article that said that Americans have the fewest gathering places of all first world nations in their neighborhoods because we just live in developments. We don't live in villages. And it also, the article also said that the only people who tend to have historically been able to express themselves in public space have been white men between 35 and 85 or something. And so he walked right across the street to the 7-year-old girl and said, "What do you want to see in the world? Let's put it in my front yard." So she said, "Well, it'd be kind of like a wave, duh." Well, what else? Like a mermaid, duh. Like a big sister mermaid. So she specified that you had to be able to reach behind her in order to hug her. And you can see she grew up to be a mermaid herself. Here. There are other mermaids that come dressed in a bathing suit to visit. Here we are. This is the site plan. Here's some of the little features in the backyard. Here's how we use the backyard sometimes for stories. This is just using it as a school. And here's the image of filling the walls with straw clay. Inside and out. This is inside. This is the greenhouse attached to the south side to bring in some light and heat. This is the thermal mass inside of the greenhouse to store the heat from the day. Many living roofs all over the site. This is one of the meadows up in the air. This is above the ADU where Sam lives out there. This is the wonderful bathroom.
Yeah. But I don't think there's a plant in our bathroom anymore.
Not anymore.
Sadly.
This is the chicken palace.
Oh!
And we're kind of making fun of our friend Christopher Alexander. He's like all about human patterns. We're like, well, surely chickens must have them as well. And wouldn't they, after all, want to live in an egg that was supported by giant sort of chicken leg-like stilts with a transparent front porch in the shape of a chicken beak? Of course.
Oh, I like that chicken.
And then this is the sauna a block away.
That's Blackberry, our cat that died.
And this is the cat palace out front. All right.
Wait, we had the cat, like, oh. Why are there different cats than Blackberry?
Because Blackberry used to share. Okay.
Oh, in the world.
So, here we are in the neighborhood, revillaging this place. And the impact, this is as of just 2013, but this is a mix of things that have happened in the Village Building Convergence just up to 2013. But these are the natural building installations, these are the paved intersections, the blue are water installations. Now we're in Cully Green, where we're going to hear about the sauna. And Cully Green is really special. Eli Spivak is very much a humanist, and he's the contractor, developer of this place, and he strives to make things as affordable and creative, tuned to the culture of Portland as he possibly can. And some people would call this, daring to put effigies of giant flowers using recycled metal up in the eave of a building. Like architects would be like, no, you cannot do such a thing. That's representational, as opposed to abstract, which it must be. Plus gray and black. It must be gray and black. But no. So Eli does this, and it just helps people to love being there. Children are running around everywhere. All these multi-generational families. And at the beginning of Cully Green, he asked for a set of sketches about the different spaces and places that could happen there. So there's just a simple little pavilion out amongst all these raised planters, some wonderful little mounds for the children to play on. But the intersections of the pathways would be these kind of mystical little crossroads, looking like this. So if you walk in Cully Green, you'll encounter spaces like this. And then the idea was to surround them with boulders and perennial plantings, so that they would be a place where people could sit and talk. Simple benches with live edge wood. This is kind of a solar sundial with these little ponds that flow into each other and then recycle up again, that also would light up at night like a wizard's hat. And then this is an art station where you can just open a cabinet and find art supplies inside and just paint right there. Let's see, this was self-service poetry station. Everything you need. This one was for flowers. You just put a vase of flowers and people could just come and take them. and it would be lit at night. This is a self-service ice cream station,
Yeah.
little refrigerator. And then just things to do up, more things to do up in the gables that were fun, and lots of trellises on the buildings. So here we are in the sauna area with a beautiful, gigantic bike corral for the whole community to use, a tool shed with an open pavilion for carpentry, and then the sauna made of hempcrete with an outside kind of plunge pool and a gathering place. Here's the carpentry area. Here's the picnic pavilion. So like, obviously there's a sense of humor, a sense of delight, natural elements to help people really be happy there. This was a kid's tree house, so you kind of have a sense of getting up in the air, but you're only going up a few steps. And then this kind of basket weave that really transforms people's sense of place. And the little sauna nestled back here. This is a section through. It's actually much larger than that, but this was a small section of it. And at first we thought it might be made out of block, but that's not how it ended up working. But this was the design of what it would become.
And so we have.
So here's Lindsay.
Can I sit down? Can I
Of
sit?
course, yeah.
Thanks, Mark. I just want to acknowledge you. I was remembering the first time I heard you speak about 15 years ago, and in a setting like this, and I was on a path that came from food and sustainability, and through you and through where I went from there, I really learned the importance of that you can't have sustainability without inclusion and community and connection and acknowledgement and all of these other things that that make up our lived experience of being in relationship to the things that we need to survive, our shelter, our food. So I just want to, it's just lovely to hear you talk, and it's lovely to be here.
Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks for coming.
Yeah. I also want to just acknowledge that we are on the lands of many tribes that used to be the caretakers of this place and are still living, thriving people today. The Multnomah, the Kalapuya, the Tualatin, Clackamas, Cathlamet, Malala, all of the, and many more. That we are living on their lands, and that the work that we do to be in relationship and in respect to our place is an honoring. And I hope that as we continue forward, we find more and more ways to acknowledge and to honor and to respect this land, the people that have taken it for so long, and are still here doing really amazing things. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Also, on that note, as you were saying, these traditions of natural building are they're not new technologies. They're ancient rememberings, and we're doing the work of resurging this knowledge that has been in our human history for as long as we've walked the earth. And so if you are out doing natural building this week or in the future, and you have your feet in some cob, or you're making straw stitches with straw and clay, I hope that you feel the ancient wisdom in your hands and your feet, that thousands and thousands of people for millennia have done this exact action and felt this exact sensation. And there's wisdom and healing in that. this is the sauna at Cully Green, the beginnings of the sauna at Cully Green. I actually got involved in it for more of the finish work side, so I was not around for this part, but I'll tell you what I know about it. They started with, this is a pretty traditional, just not traditional, but conventional footing, concrete footing and slab. And that was a decision that was made for the sake of what it was going to be used for and the ability of the people to upkeep the foundation and the floor. And that's always important to, you know, we love doing natural building, but also we sometimes need to make choices to use other materials as well, to have it be accessible and possible. Here's the frame going up. So the frame is going to be surrounded by hemp on both sides. So there's this internal, mostly 4x4 posts holding up the rafters or pylons. And here is the shape beginning to happen. So the builders, when they were starting, they were going to do blocks, hempcrete blocks, which is a pretty traditional way of doing hempcrete. But because of the shape of this structure, they actually switched gears and started doing forms and packing the hempcrete into those forms. They also, because of the shape, the circular shape of this building, they struggled to figure out diagonal bracing for shear support. So like shear being the quality of the building not to rack back, but to stay in it upright. So instead of doing diagonal bracing within the walls, they decided to add plywood sections that are actually buried in the walls, and that creates that shear strength that holds the building straight and upright.
Are those above that, the ones going horizontal? Are those also for the shear? Or are
Yes.
those the forms?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
these are. They did some flat and straight on the back. This back wall is the only really straight wall, and then they did little sections where they could. And then yes, some of these upper ones they actually used thinner material and curved them. Here's the form starting going. So now you can see this is the first form that they're putting on the outside. That's on the edge of the blocks that they did at the bottom. So then they have their shear panels on the inside of the wall. Here's the forms going up. And hempcrete is it's basically a combination of hemp and lime, and this particular recipe uses a calcined clay, which has like a pozzolanic or sticky factor reason for putting it in. So yeah, it is an additive that is used, can be used with cement and other things to create more adherence, because lime works more like structurally it grabs onto itself, but it needs like a shelf to grab onto, versus like a clay wall actually kind of adheres and becomes one with itself rather than binding onto like shelves of the last layer, if that makes sense. So adding the calcined clay or the metakaolin, whatever you want to call it, created a little bit more of like a stickiness to the hempcrete. And then hemp is, I'm not the expert in hemp, but my understanding is it's really cool because it has both insulative and hygroscopic qualities. So as Mark was saying, these natural buildings breathe. They actually can intake water and respirate that back out over time. And hemp, as well as lime, are both capable of doing that. So this structure can take in a lot of moisture and then just slowly release it back out. Here's the hempcrete going in the forms.
Do you know how thick it is, the walls?
They're on average about 12 inches thick. So you can see here, oops, I meant to point and I pushed the next button. You can see here how these posts are actually, they're, you know, several inches from the outside and a few inches from the inside of the wall. So they're disappearing into the walls.
So the frames are actually attached to be further out from those 4x4s.
Yes,
There's these tiny
yeah.
little.
Yeah, they're blocked out with screws or little small peg things, yeah. Here's just kind of a view from the little picnic table. So you can see they've taken off the lower forms, and here's the hempcrete. Almost all the way up. This is the same mixture, just in different ratio, basically. So more lime and clay, and a little bit less hemp to kind of create these little patch areas. This is the door frame after they took out the little frame for it. There's Eli.
Are the parts that aren't formed, or is that just packed like by hand?
Yeah, yes. So this did have a form in it. They packed in as well as they could.
Yeah.
And then you can see that in some of these areas it was a little harder to get a really tight pack.
Yeah.
So when they took those forms off, so you can see the outside held really nicely in this shape. The inside, because of this header here, just didn't have enough to grab onto. So when I came in, you'll see later, I used the same mixture basically, this sort of patching mixture with a little bit of hemp and mostly plaster of lime and the kale and clay to build out and reshape some of these areas. This is the beginnings of thinking about where the benches are gonna go. There's a little window going in up there. Here's the ceiling going in. I did a little tongue and groove ceiling, and I taped off the edges. This is basically where the plaster is gonna come up to. You can see there's still a little bit of work to do to build out some of the wall shape. There's the door going in. This is really cool hinges made by Richard, who does really cool metalwork in town, and a lot of the metalwork that Mark was referring to in the eaves on those buildings. And this was sort of just sort of figuring it out, how do we install this curved door? I decided to do the kind of straight jamb pieces on the sides, and then left this open, and my idea was to sculpt in the top of the jamb with the plaster. So this is the bottle wall going in. They wanted a bottle wall, and we had some conversations, decided to do a bas relief of some tree kind of shapes. So that is me kind of carving those out and figuring out where those are going to go, adding these bottles. And then down at the bottom here, you can see these are posts that I added. I actually kind of found where those posts were in the wall and blocked out to the edge of the wall so that I could mount these cedar upright posts along the wall, which are going to be the support for the benches later. Which worked really well for the benches. It did create a lot of edges to work up against for the plastering part. But
What would you use to dig into the hempcrete to make your holes?
just like a trowel or a screwdriver, or it was in some place it was really hardly packed. A lot of these areas the posts aren't very far from the edge, so it was kind of easy to find them, and then just carve a little bit out, just enough to, you know, have a place to throw a screw through. There's me, and this is one of the community members helping out. The community members were awesome and jumped in on the plastering. It was really fun. I'm still friends with this lady. She's great. And I get to go back and see the sauna and see the community space that's continuing to evolve there, which is really lovely. Lovely space. It feels really good to be there and to see all that they're continuing to do.
And that's a lime plaster on top?
This is the lime plaster, yep. Yeah, it was lime inside and out. Here's the scratch coat going on. So I started forming the tree bas relief with the first coat and just sort of built it up every time. A little bit more. You can see the door shape kind of beginning to happen. There's the brown coat going on the inside. And then there's the finish coat going on. There's that door shape coming. I actually used the door to create the stop shape. I just built it out and then smushed the door into it. Great, that's where you want to stop. Okay, great. Plastering this round structure with a volunteer crew was interesting. It was a cool learning experience in terms of, you know, the interior curve was challenging with trowels, and so we used trowels for some of it, and then we used our just gloved hands for a lot of it, which kind of created this cool natural stony kind of effect. Here's the after the first coat is done and the bottles have been revealed.
What's the floor?
The floor is concrete. It's like a stamped kind of concrete, stamped and tinted concrete. There's the shape going in for the benches. They wanted a second layer up here, so then we did that too. Here's that going in.
And is the material for the walls dyed or pigmented?
Yeah, so the last coat I actually used Limestrong pigment. Limestrong, actually I think what is their
Earth
name?
House then.
Earth House. Yeah, they sell plaster, like pre-made plaster, but I just made a plaster mix and just used their pigments. For both inside and outside. There's me. We wanted to do a curve. This is going to have a curved face. And so I was figuring that out. I decided to cut a 2x4 into 5 really skinny pieces. And then this is that going on. With a lot of clamps. I screwed in actually all of the layers except for the last one. So then this last one I didn't, with the sauna you have to think about hot things on bare skin. So no metal sticking out anywhere.
Wow.
Finish that.
That's great. Wow.
Ooh.
So we did 3 vents. There's these 2, and then there's one by the heater to allow them to be able to control the temperature and moisture.
Wow. Very cool.
And here's
Is it just a little disc that rolls?
Sorry?
Is it just a little disc? For
Yeah, that's actually I didn't make that. I found it on Etsy.
Amazing.
It's like a Swedish company or something that makes these little wooden vent things, and then it's just PVC pipe. going through. Yeah, there's a community excited to use their sauna.
What's the heat source in the sauna?
It's like an electric. I don't know. There, you can kind of see it right here. It's like a little like electric heater that has. It's cool. It has like stones in it, and you can do steam or not. I'm told that it works pretty well. It's a pretty big space, so but the heater does a pretty good job. Here's the outside now. They wanted to do. We were talking about, you often with a natural building, you want a little bit of like a stem wall, kind of to protect or not have plaster really close to the ground. So around the door, I did this little rock work. So there's that going in. I did use just cement or like a mortar mix for this rock because I wanted something that would be strong and set up really quickly against the weight of those rocks. So that was the only place that I used a little. You can see my little mortar mix bag there. The outside taking shape. And then here's the finish coat going on. I don't think we have a picture of it, but the kind of the stem wall kind of idea, or the protection for the bottom that we figured out for the rest of it, where we didn't do stonework, was actually Richard, our metal worker. He made this cool, just like a wrap that kind of goes around the bottom, like 1.5 feet or so, and he kind of made it look like a little mountain. It's like a thing. And then I had him set it off so there's space between it so the wall can still breathe. So it just sort of protects the bottom of the wall from getting rained on or backsplash. Here's the outside finish.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. This is the earthen roof up here. That's it.
Yay. Does anyone have any? Yeah.
What is the earthen roof?
I believe it's like. Do you know? I wasn't there for that part of it, but it's probably like a pumice mixture of some kind of something like that.
It's TPO, which is like EPDM, sort of a pond liner, except it's really super popular on roofs. And it's UV resistant, lasts a long, long time. It's white, so it's reflective. But then the soil that is put on it, there's different kinds of ways that you can structure a living roof with like drain mats under it. But yeah, in this case, it's a fairly shallow roof. So it's just 4 inches of compost with pumice, and then sedum, and always volunteer grass on top, and north side ferns. Yeah.
Can you talk about so you got contracted through Eli to do this, and did you have like experience prior to this doing saunas or like similar style structures?
I worked with, I got hired by Eli actually to do the finished carpentry, and then they found out that I had plaster experience. So I worked with a plasterer in Eugene for a few years doing various projects on like a crew, doing a lot of straw bales and stuff like that for a couple of professional plasterers actually down in Eugene area. So that was my plaster experience, and I got involved with this project just kind of through people that I knew. I didn't know Eli, but I knew a couple of friends of Eli's, and I was looking for work, and I got this job. And finding, there is the aspect of finding people that are like Eli, who are willing to willing to support art, because this is definitely it's there's a lot more to a structure like this than just throwing up something functional, you know. So finding people that are willing to support that and pay people for their time to do artistic things is rare, and but hopefully getting better and better as we make it more and more out there in the world, and people say, yeah, I want that, and I'm willing to pay for that really cool, unique structure.
Do you have an estimate of how many hours you put into it and how many hours were put into it altogether? Any guess?
Gosh. I mean, I worked on it for a little over a year, and I probably averaged like 20 hours a week, and I was just doing the finish. So, yeah, and I imagine that the build probably was almost, maybe not quite that much, but similar amount of time.
I hate to ask this question, but is this permitted? Like, is it a legal structure?
The sauna, I don't think the sauna itself was permitted, was it?
It's legal, but it's not permitted.
It's
Okay.
under 200 square feet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as long as it's not being used as a dwelling,
Right.
you know, like it's electrified legally. It has an electrical permit for a sauna, and so the city understands it's a sauna. But we didn't need a building permit for it.
Cool.
Can you talk a little bit more about hempcrete and sort of how all the parts come together for that material?
Do you know? I'm not the expert in hempcrete. I can say what I know, but what do you know about it?
Well, okay, so this was our first exposure to it, and the first thing you learn when you're dealing with something that hasn't been done before where you are is that the streams of material flow aren't sort of directed here. So finding hemp, building hemp was a big challenge. They were looking and looking, and they thought they had a connection in 2 or 3 places before they finally located this source in Colorado that they could get it from. So that took a while. But yeah, it has to come in the right condition. It has to be dry. And as you were saying, in order for it to have the proper qualities of being insulative, you know, it has to be like a certain sort of basic diameter. So it can't just be sort of fibers. It has to be more like a stalk that's been chopped up. So, yeah, and then it was mixed with, I think, 1 or 2 different constituents, including water, but as Lindsay said, lime, and then packed into the form. But a lot of people have because it has the crete part of hempcrete. People tend to think it's like this big, solid, thick thing that's very strong, but you wouldn't ever use it to support a roof. It's really just an infill. It might have worked as enough as diagonal bracing in the wall. I don't know. I've not worked with it directly, hands-on myself. But that's kind of as much as I know about hempcrete. So now that we have this first example, we can see how it performs.
Yeah, it is about R20 for a 12-inch wall. So it's it's pretty good insulation, more than is necessary to code, really. And what I understand, from working with it, I'll just say that I found it to be a really cool, like the combination of the lime with the calcined clay was a really nice thing to work with, and then the hemp in it was added some moldability, and I was able to really nicely, like sculpturally, like build out those places, like around the door and the bas relief and stuff like that. With that, it obviously doesn't have the same kind of using straw, you can really like create shapes, and you have the length of the straw, so it was a little more crumbly than that, but it still had a lot of ability to kind of like hold to itself and be sculpted. which I thought was really cool. But yeah, it doesn't have the strength, so you need the diagonal bracing or something for shear, and that the framework underneath there to hold up the structure.
Go ahead, Andrew.
I have two questions about hempcrete that I've always kind of had. Like, one is why lime and not cement, and the other one is why hemp, because there's like a lot of other fibers. Is hemp special, or could you use something else?
Well, hemp is like I was saying before, it's both insulative and has the ability to kind of slough water, so it's cool in that way. Hemp, there's a lot of political things around hemp not being available, and so we're trying to make it more easily accessible because it is such a cool, sustainable material. I don't know. I think lime interacts with certain materials in better or worse ways. And can you put straw in lime?
I've never heard of it.
I don't think you can for some reason. But anyway, yeah, hemp can hold up to lime, which.
Yeah, I think it performs better than, say, cedar chips or something. You know, you've probably heard of Lieshlimbau, which is like straw clay, except it's wood chips with clay packed into a wall, and this is very similar. But the one of the things that people really like about this is that it's apparently mold proof.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
and fireproof.
Right.
In a way, because of the interaction of the two, and I believe that straw clay and Lieshlimbau are not mold proof. They can mold if water gets into the wall.
The lime causes calcification of the other materials in a 6 to 8 week period.
Okay. There we go.
What was that?
The lime causes calcification of the other materials so that it actually chemically transforms them.
Oh, a shell effect.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
Apparently.
And yeah, lime instead of concrete because of a lot less embodied energy in the material. Concrete has a very high embodied energy.
I'm curious if y'all could speak to, and feel free to take this question wherever it wants to go, but just curious if you could speak a little bit about how natural building embodies ongoing relationship with the sense of place and just what care looks like of these buildings over time.
Wow. Thank you for that question. Yeah, we were just talking about that actually. My thought about it is, one, the process of making something like this creates this really cool community that is strengthened by the bond of having built something together. And then also the building itself is a living structure in a very different way than conventional buildings are. It does breathe, it does change, and it does require maintenance over time in a different way. I mean, all buildings require maintenance over time, but in a different way than a conventional structure does. And so I think it's really important to realize when you're building with natural building, you are shifting your paradigm in relationship to the building that you are creating and that you're planning on using or living in, and having that ongoing relationship with the building is important to keeping it maintained and functioning well, and because of the tactile and labor intensive way that it needs support. It kind of creates this need for work parties every so often, or things like that are going to continue to maintain the community and the communication and the conversation as well as the building itself.
I would say that, well, first of all, if you go in the backyard and you look at the sanctuary, the cob is standing there as fresh and happy as it was when we built it 24 years ago. But then you look at the window sills, and they're needing to be painted for the third time. So like, you know, things that can happen to it. So it'll just sit there. If it has a good roof on it, there's this phrase, a good hat and a pair of boots. So it needs to be on a good foundation. It needs to have a nice overhang. When water's coming off of the roof, it needs to be caught in a gutter so that it doesn't just come off and then get blown back against the building. So just some practical, sensible things that you really want to do about it. You know, any building, like buildings made of wood. And if you do those things, it'll probably last far longer than anything made of wood that is exposed, you know, day in and day out to the sun and the wind and the rain and the expansion and contraction of that. Yeah, wood doesn't as a wall. I would say wood doesn't perform as well as cob does. If you go in the sanctuary and look at the floor, it's an earthen floor in there as well. It's just like there's going back to the beginning though of how I felt about answering your questions. Like from the very beginning of creating a natural building, it affects you and you feel things you don't feel ordinarily in wooden buildings. Like the first time I walked into our sanctuary after 10 days of building it, like you could smell the interaction of the clay, sand, and straw and the water. And I really felt like I was inside of something that my own body is made out of. And of course we designed that thing out there to feel like you're walking back inside your mother's womb, because it is a womb shape. So that's even more remarkable. And you can do that with cob. You can make cob into any kind of shape. But it's extremely amenable to be made in a circular way so that you can throw any kind of earthquake at it and it'll just sit there reverberating with the forces moving through its circular walls and be fine. So I think the emotional connection from the beginning is profoundly different, and you're going to tend to want to stay there and sustain your relationship with it longer. It just has an ongoing effect on you emotionally and spiritually to be in a space like that.
This community has a sauna committee, and so they are like constantly in relationship to how do we want to be in this space, how do we want to share this space and communicate about this space and build this space out. They've added a hot tub, they're adding a shower and a cold plunge, and they're continuing to grow their relationship to it, which is really cool.
When did you finish it? How old is it?
It is. I finished it a year and a half ago. 2 years ago. 2 years ago.
How do you like have an idea, because it's lime plaster, and so like how often you might have to replaster it, especially with like the conditions of the sauna, or you're just gonna kind of go and experience it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the inside looks great. It's holding up really well. It's really able to, you know, kind of take in, release that moisture. It's pulled away exactly where I figured it would, around the edges. We talked about doing maybe like a natural rope kind of trim or something like that, which we never did, but we could if they decided they didn't like the look of that. But yeah, it's holding up really well. The outside has like a few little cracks here and there, but nothing that goes all the way through into the wall. And yeah, I mean, we could do another layer of plaster, or it could be fine for a long time. But you know, the exterior just deals with a lot bigger fluctuations in temperature. Yeah.
The roof overhangs seem to be pretty narrow. Do you have any concerns about blowing rain causing problems with the outside plaster?
They are a little bit narrower than a lot of buildings, but the lime plaster definitely holds up. If it was an earthen plaster on the outside, I would be more concerned about it. Yeah.
How regularly do you imagine that you'll have to re-lime
plaster it?
It just kind of depends on their on the community's needs, but I think the inside might not need plastering for a long time. The outside maybe could use it in a couple of years, or could go longer. Yeah. Like Mark was saying, the cob outside is holding strong for however long.
I think when it comes to maintaining natural buildings, it's more like spot maintenance. It's not like having to, grind off the paint and completely reprime and completely repaint everything, which you kind of have to do in a cyclical way with wooden buildings and siding. Here on the house, you probably noticed that there's some inlaid glass and mirrors, some sort of special effects, and that's fixed in place using natural linseed oil. So every 3 or 4 years I go up there, because you've got this western sun hitting it, and it's making it expand and contract every day. So I'm kind of expecting some of those mirrors and glass for the clay to let go of them someday, but we've never seen anything drop. So I get up there every few years and just apply another coat of linseed oil, and everything just, then is glued in even better. So I don't know. I mean, it was all an experiment. The idea of filling the walls with straw clay and finishing, like, these wall surfaces are actually dirt from the garden that then has earth paint over it, over straw. And so that was all an experiment, doing that within a wood stud framework, and then especially on the outside. There are some places, like, what's a bigger danger to the house is the fact that every now and then somebody actually sprays the house, with the hose, and it erodes a little bit of the pigment off of the surface of the earth and plaster. But other than that, like, the driving rain doesn't. It arrives kind of as a sheet, and it doesn't erode the house, but the hose directed at the house does. But that's easy to fix. It's just about a 10-minute fix. So it's kind of fun to be interacting with it and just see how it works over time.
Did you pull drywall and then fill the studs with the straw?
Well, we would have pulled drywall, but actually this house is really a weird house. It has shiplap on the interior. It never had lath and plaster, so it's never had sheetrock. But this is like the crappiest house ever built. The studs are 32 inches on center.
Oh my gosh. So,
like, crappy is 2 feet on center. This is 32. And the foundation is just poured onto the dirt. Doesn't go under the ground at all. So we've been retrofitting. Like, I lifted up part of the house at one point and put in a section of a new footing, and maybe we'll do that here and there. But when we opened up the walls to fill them with straw clay, then we retrofit new studs, and like this is a new system in the ceiling here of reclaimed wood. So.
Oh yeah. That's what I was wondering.
I like what you said about the experimental nature of working with this stuff. I feel like it's empowering to be able to play with your materials, and I think of it like cooking with a recipe versus just understanding the needs of the different ingredients that you're working with. And with natural building, it's like if you just sort of understand, like, oh, the basic premise of a lime plaster versus an earthen plaster is this, and if I'm going to use straw or I'm going to just have the basic kind of understanding of how those things interact with each other, then you can play, you can experiment, and I think that's really empowering.
I'd like to make an offer. I have 7 of these books. It's called Clay Culture, Plasters, Paints, and Preservation, and it's by a really like a renowned elder from Taos, New Mexico wrote it. And I'm offering them for free to people. I'm going to leave them on the desk here, so if you would like a copy, go
I
forth.
would like a copy.
There are 6 books available now. But yeah, she's a wonderful woman, and there's a lot to learn from in this book. So, sure.
Thank you. Wow.
For you. 5 copies.
Oh my god.
Now there is 5 because
Hold on, we're gonna share.
no.
We're gonna share. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, well, please everyone just hang out. I think there's some food and desserts out there. I'm probably gonna go in the backyard and be out there for a little bit, and if enough people want to go on a tour, there's more stuff happening around the block in terms of natural building and permaculture. So we can take a little walk around the block and see some other things, if you want to.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Do you still do a bunch of like plaster work?
I work in both the conventional and the natural world.
Yeah,
so
I love that.
my job is for a construction company in town that does a lot of remodels and little ADUs in people's backyards and stuff like that. So, but they're definitely hip to the natural world too, the natural building stuff. So they're down to do a plaster wall or something like that.
Oh, sweet.
If possible with clients. But yeah, I do a lot more conventional work than natural these days.
Yeah.
Oh, right,
To
right.
get back more into the natural building work. It is really
That's what
hard
I wish
on the
somebody
body,
would have called me along.
Yeah,
to
especially
turn this
plastering.
off.
Like,
Yeah.
I've done some plastering
Yeah.
here, like with a child.
Yeah, I think my shoulder would like it if I went back into plastering
That's
full
my
time.
favorite.
But yeah, I love being able to like bring in little aspects
feel
of
good.
it, and that's I feel like is really important
A biblical character.
to have it spread is to have it not have to be like a very specific thing, but to allow it in little ways into conventional structures.
Doesn't have to be all or nothing.
Exactly. If somebody can experience the beauty of a plaster wall and the way it makes you feel, even if it's over sheetrock, is still
You can call me that too.
it's still somebody
Rowdy.
out there that has that understanding and can recognize it and go out and talk about it and talk about how beautiful it is, and talk about how the energy of the room feels different and how the depth of the wall looks different and or how their bathroom never molds. Like, you can totally go like right over sheetrock with certain types of plaster and stuff like that.
No, it's not cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Email is not removed.
Well, it's good to I guess probably good to be in that position then, because then you can infiltrate the conventional.
And I'm also grateful for I've learned a lot being in the conventional world and like learning about the permitting process and structural codes and all of these things, and all of that informs and supports me in being able to like better help whatever DIY natural build project comes along next, to be able to say like, oh, I can,
my great grandma,
I understand what this building needs in terms of like shear structure or in terms of whatever, for those times when there isn't like a permit process telling us, oh, exactly you have to do it this way, but to still create structurally sound, safe environments, so that I feel like I've gained a lot in that way working in this work.
I hated to ask the question, but from California, so it's like you start with what's legal.
Oh, totally.
Work your way back a little bit. Or I don't know, this gray area.
And it's it's really cool that more and more things are becoming legal, like straw bale, straw clay, pod, like it's really cool to see that the progression of, because I got into natural building like about 12 years ago or something like that.
I think that's his.
You've always been like a builder?
I grew up in my dad's shop.
Oh, nice. Cool.
I've always kind of dabbled in building, and then I got really into food and farming for a while, and all things kind of homesteady, sustainable, and that's kind of. And then my family bought some land, and my friend that I farmed with was available, and I was like, let's start a farm on my family's land. So we did that and built a lot of structures for ourselves. And then I stopped farming and got back into building, so it's kind of been this like. But even in the 12 years that I have been doing natural building stuff, I have seen such a progression of visibility and legality of all these things. Like to be able to talk to somebody that works for the city, the code system, and for them to to be able to say Strawbill to somebody and have them not go what the but to say.
I met a Portland planner who was part of the VDC like 5-10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It was the same thing with street repair and all intersection paintings. Like that was like they were like no.
Don't leave without saying.
Okay. And you know they started doing it, and then now the city is totally hip to. They're like, sure, another one, okay, so and it's spreading. All around the world. There's people doing intersection paintings. So
cool. So do you do like just work around here then, or do you ever do like workshops?
I would love to get more into doing workshops. I've just been doing mostly in East Portland, like remodel stuff is what I've been up to lately. But my goal would be to get back into at least a portion of my time spending, because what I love the most is empowering people to be in that connection with their place.
Yes.
And it makes me so happy when, because there's a hurdle, there's like an emotional, spiritual, mental hurdle, right, to get over this idea that, because we're told like, oh, you have to have a license, you have to have an education in this thing, and you have to get this thing, and then you're allowed to do. That's like the way that we're brought up in all things, right? It's like, and so when I had that experience, even though I built things my whole life, I'd never built anything on a house scale. And then I went to a natural building school, and we built, it was called Aprovecho.
Oh, I was just there.
You were?
Center for
Rural
Livelihoods. Yeah. 2 days ago.
Yeah, they changed their name. You were?
Super amazing. Yeah.
Cool.
I was in Eugene. Someone recommended it. I was like, wow.
Nice. Yeah.
So cool.
It's unfortunately they're not doing the same type of school that they used to have there. But when I was there, it was like a 7-week intensive course, and we lived there.
Like a design build kind of.
And we built like a small naturally built structure in 7 weeks.
I saw those.
To see like all the different
experimental little huts.
Oh yeah, those are
not
like.
Those? Oh okay.
Well, a couple of those, but the one I did my year was not actually on the property. It was somewhere out. It was down the road.
Do you by chance know someone named Alicia?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that was the person that told me about Alicia. Something with a G. I don't remember.
I don't know her last name either, but I know who you're talking about.
Love it. Solid connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Afro alumni.
Yes.
Yeah, so I got that experience. Of, it's like I wasn't an expert after 7 weeks in building a house, but I had experienced every piece of it just enough to where I felt empowered to be able to say like, oh, I can figure it out. And there was something to that. I needed that hurdle, and that's what I really want. That's what I get really excited about, is like helping people get over that hurdle.
Demystify.
To be like, oh no, I can do it. I tell people, if you can put together an IKEA set, you can build anything. Like it's just about understanding the way things go together, and maybe there's a little bit of tool use figuring out and stuff like that, but it's like it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. I think.
Especially how the trades combine. Like if you get someone that knows construction, like mud is mud is mud is mud, right? Like even if they do drywall and they do taping, like put that trowel in their hand. Just dare you. You know what I mean?
I've worked with some guys who were just, did conventional parch coats and drywallers, and I handed them a trowel with some earth and plaster, and they're like, oh yeah, this
They
makes
almost
sense.
laugh. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, so my email is lhowells10@gmail.com. So that's LHOWELLS10 and my name is Lindsay Howells. And yeah, I would love to be involved in more conversations about natural building, help people think about ideas, and also I have a friend that works in the restaurant industry that loves to say Portland is not a it's not a small town, it's just one big restaurant. And I feel the same way about the natural building world. It's like once you kind of get involved and then you know a few people, then you're like you're like 2 people away from everybody that does it because it's just like we're all connected. So even if I don't have the capacity to help with something, I might be able to like offer ideas of who could. So yeah.
Like
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and lots of people in Eugene too. There's a really cool natural building community in the Eugene and Cottage Grove area. That's where I learned, and yeah, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like we better catch Mark's tour.
Oh yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
Well, this goes here.